we rejoin our adventurers in the forest, fresh off the spoils of an impromptu raid on a caravan of expeditioneers. These expeditioneers have chased them into the forest, but by leaving some things behind, we finally managed to escape. Igor is a knife. Who would have thought? I don't know if Igor, when the sun went down, could ever have imagined that he would be a knife when he came back to his senses. Igor is now possessing this knife, and did so in an attempt to help the raid on this expeditioneer caravan. We were able to make off with quite a bit of loot, and the gang is pretty well fed at this point. We've got some extra supplies, but we've discussed a little bit before that one of the most cardinal sins that one can perpetrate as part of the Pack of the Eternal Hunger is to waste supplies, but most especially food. Illyria, in an attempt to get away, had a keg full of food, full of bacon, and regrettably had to leave it behind in order to try and get away. Now, it worked, but this does mean that Illyria has just done something that the pack may not be able to forgive quite so readily as other faux pas. Illyria may be well on thin ice with the pack. Igor is right on the cusp of being able to transform and exit this knife that he has possessed. Chu is once again on the trail of Ravenu. We lost sight of Ravenu for a bit, but Ravenu was staying just outside of notice. This beast decided not to partake in our raid on the caravan, and instead we now find ourselves back on Ravenu's trail, catching up a little bit, but there's sleep to be had. We need to rest. A couple of us are well exhausted. Igor especially is in particularly rough shape. Illyria is a little further behind, a little better rested, but not great. Are we going to be able to get a full night's sleep here as we try to follow Ravenu wherever Ravenu is intending to lead us? We don't know where. All we know is we're heading west, toward the river, and toward a spot on the river just north of the towers. Those of you who know your geography around the realms of Residus may well know that to the north of the towers, on this eastern bank of the river, there's a swampland. Rumors abound about this swampland, about what sort of creatures lie here, about what sort of people on this swampy land that once, back in ages long past, was settled, or at least the attempt was made. Estates were built. For various reasons, the people who tried to settle there were pushed out. But what is it that has taken up residence in the swamplands to the north of the towers in the ages since those settling attempts were made? we make camp here in the forest. Some panic runs through the pack as we wonder, is it possible that we've missed our chance with revenue? Has revenue run off? Has our weakness, not our weakness, our instincts, granted to us by revenue herself, have they led us astray this time? But no, of course not. Revenue has led us, as she always does, to good eats. Revenue has led us to food, to sustenance. It's good because Revenue's presence has awoken not just hunger, but absolute bottomless desire to consume in everyone here in this party except for Igor. Illyria, of course, is included in this, but Illyria did not grow up in the same situation as the rest. Illyria didn't grow up with this cardinal sin of waste. Wasting resources is absolutely terrible, but the waste and abandonment of food, there is no greater sin in the pack of the Eternal Hunger. And Illyria left quite a bit behind in our attempt to escape. Here's what's up. I am going to make a luck check here really quick. I'm going to say that it is very unlikely. I'm gonna say that our desired truth for this luck check is that the expeditioneers have not found our little camp here. They have not caught up with us, and that we have gotten a full night's rest. That's our desired truth. I'm gonna say that is very likely. We very likely got our full rest in. But there's a chance. So I'm going to flip 3 coins here. And if any of these are heads, we're fine. The only bad thing is if all 3 of these are tails. Let's find out. 2 heads. We are all good. Our rest is peaceful. Sometime during the night, our watchers panic a bit. They rouse some of our companions. They rouse some of the pack as a shape pads through the forest toward us. But we find, of course, that it is simply revenue returning. We settle in once more, and with our hunger temporarily sated, with revenue close at hand, the moon's own daughter, deep den mother, hunger itself, we feel at peace. As the sun begins to rise, Illyria wakes up to a shake on their shoulder. Shake, 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 shake. And suddenly, a slap across the face.
Oh, what? Igor!
Igor's nearby. And Igor, you are aroused by this as Chu stands over Illyria.
How much did you lose?
What?
How much did you lose? In the forest, I saw you carrying something, and it's not here anymore. Lose the food? I threw it at one of our pursuers, the expeditioneers. They were coming after us. We were able to...
Another slap.
We really just got the one rule. We don't waste. We don't abandon. Certainly not food. Do you hear that?
And of course, there is a gentle grumbling in the stomachs of these lycan who were well fed not 6 hours ago, and yet, once again, grumbling stomachs. This is the way of life that they have grown up with. And Illyria is finding this now.
I'm sorry. I dropped it hoping that we could get away and that would mean that we could hold on to more of everything else that we got. And we did, didn't we? We're away.
Illyria is starting to recover from sleep, and they sit up. Their hand reaches instinctively a little bit over toward the shaft of this spear that they've recently started carrying. Let's see if I can convince Chu about this. Let's see if I can have this conversation with Chu.
Illyria, you get one pass.
Chu looks up over her shoulder at Ravenu, who is looking down at this, sort of sitting on her haunches, just observing.
This is your one pass. You're gonna learn what this does. You remember what happened yesterday? You remember our plan to ambush that expeditioneer caravan? No, of course you don't, because we didn't have one. We didn't plan to ambush the caravan at all. This is what hunger does. It makes us reckless. Certainly it makes us bold, yes. And it can be a blessing, but if we give in too much, if we get lost in it, a lot of us could get very, very hurt. At least one of those expeditioneers wanted us dead for what we did. This ain't the last time that hunger's going to drive us to do something we weren't expecting. You get one pass. Next time, it don't matter what we do. Don't matter how tight things are. It don't matter how close they are on our heels. We don't give up food.
Shaking a little bit, Chu stands up and backs off. Steel looks equally shaken by this. Igor slides over.
Illyria, where did you drop the food? Do you remember? Maybe we can double back and get to it, or do you think that if we do so, Ravenu would move too far away for us to catch up? I don't know. I think that we're on thin ice here, Igor. If I go, you are certainly not going to go with them, and then we're going to be alone together here in the forest. We've done it before, but we've always done it with an expeditioneer camp close at hand. If we need to get some extra food, we can load some wagons or, well, unload some wagons. I remember a few of those nights. I think if we tried to go back for it on our own, they'll move on without us. They don't seem like they'd be very willing to wait.
Igor, of course, has his own reasons for wanting to go back. That caravan, that expeditioneer caravan that came through, it was towing 3 wagons, one of which was the very wagon that we called home for a while. It appears that they've fixed up some of the wheels and have got it moving again, but in its time it was our home back at the expeditioneers camp and the place under which Igor died. If there are any clues outside of that expeditioneers camp, the very scene of the crime, they're either going to be back in the towers, where Professor Brana has stated these runic weapons probably originated, or they are very nearby on a cart belonging to a pissed off group of expeditioneers. Right now, Ravenu appears to be pretty stationary. Ravenu goes over to some bushes and starts to pick at some of the berries that she finds there. Some of the lycan here chew orders Steel to round up a few things, and they chuck it down in front of Ravenu, who immediately, sort of in one gulp, takes down not just the supplies that they tossed her, but also the blanket that they tossed it to her on. Just a little sort of scrap of canvas, almost, even more so than a blanket, and just chomped it right down. And it appears to be resting a little bit, panting. It seems like perhaps while we were doing what we were doing, Ravenu was doing some traveling herself and may have strayed a bit further than we realized before coming back, maybe scouting our way to where we still do not know. After all, Ravenu is a god and a beast.
It might be too risky to split from the main group, so let's look for an opportunity to make up for it later on. But we'd also be leaving behind what used to be home, and possible clues about my death. I know, Igor. I didn't see it until the very last moment, but that was home. That was our little wagon. I'm surprised they were able to get it fixed up and moving again. Do you think that there would be clues there? I suppose there could. If we can make it there within an hour or so, maybe. But any more time than that, I would be worried about getting left behind by the pack. You're right. If we go quickly, very, very quickly, maybe we can find them. All right. Let's try to plan this out.
And the two of us, we're going to put our heads together here and see if there's anything that can be done about this very quick trip that needs to be made. I think we're going to call this a pretty risky one. I think it's going to be a 4 o'clock for our count down and then a 6 o'clock for our count up. Let's see. Marinvere says, if we left, could Illyria possibly track the pack? I mean, so do you mean, sort of, help me understand what you might want to try here, Marinvere. Do you mean that we would have, like, Igor go back, and then Illyria would sort of stay, like, halfway between Igor and the pack, and so that when Igor goes out and then tries to come back, Illyria is kind of waiting for him and already knows where the pack is. Is that kind of what we're thinking? And then Dahlia says, do we want to do risky thing or not risky thing? This is a good question. Good question, gang. A 4 o'clock counting down and a 6 o'clock that we have to fill. Now, those of you who do not know about progress clocks, essentially, well, you can kind of ignore this, but we have to fill up a little progress bar with 6 increments. And depending on how we flip, we can either get 0, 1, or 2 sort of units of that filled. Monkey says, seems they should be more wary, but possible reward. Ooh, indeed. Indeed. All right. I think we just got to take a vote here. There is possible reward. Possibly reward with A, the food that Illyria left behind. That is a possibility of something we could find along the way. And then B, heading back to that wagon could potentially mean that we have got some more information about Igor's death. We've got 1 vote for not risky. Let's just divide it up like this. Forward or back? Do you vote forward? We continue on with the pack and we do not return, or back we head back the way that we came and try to get some more clues, try to get some more supplies, and then hope that we can catch up with the pack once more. So, forward or back? Forward and ignore the supplies behind us and the possibility of clues, or back and risk the pack leaving us in the dust. Forward or back? Dahlia says, I vote not risky, so that sounds like forward to me. Marinvera says, I was thinking maybe they could sniff out the packs so that we can find them after we leave them. Potentially, Marinvera. Louise says, I'd vote risk it on the coins. Okay, so that's one for forward. Nope, sorry, that's one for back. One forward, one back. What do we like so far, gang? I'm gonna want, let's see, based on the number of viewers that we've got currently in, I think I'm gonna need at least one more vote in either direction. Do we want to go forward with the pack, or do we want to go back to the wagon? Okay, Monkey says we risk it. Okay. Okay. I think that's going to be a decisive vote here. Okay, Marinvera also says back. Okay, fantastic. All right. The wind rushes around us. And as Revenue stands, Illyria looks with some panic back the way that we came, up to this majestic dire wolf above all dire wolves. Back the way that we came. Feels the sting on their cheek. And then looks Igor dead in the eyes, grabs their spear, and runs off into the forest. Thunk, 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 as Illyria's footsteps pound against the ground. We're well rested. Igor is right here at our shoulder, and we now proceed back the direction that we came. We do not have much time if we don't want to be left behind, and we have got quite a distance to go. But this could mean we can retrieve the supplies that we lost, and Igor, probably more importantly, get some clues as to how and why you died. As Monkey says, speed is key. All right. Now, we got some flips to make here, gang. I think each one of us could make one move, or we sort of take turns in tandem and consider this sort of like the two of us moving as a group. What is it you want to try and do here? How is it that you are going to, what creative possibilities are you going to take to try and move as quickly as possible back in the direction that we need to go? We're rushing back. We're headed toward the road that we left. It is a considerable distance. When Revenue is moving at a normal pace, they can cover a decent bit of ground, but it's certainly not a sprint. They move at a marching pace. We are moving at a sprinting pace, and although it is more than a mile, it might be about 2 miles back to that road. If we can really hurry, we may have a chance of making this happen. I think Illyria, to get us sort of kicked off here, Illyria is going to, I think in order to better find our way back here, Illyria is going to make some subtle marks on these trees. I think Illyria is going to mark the backs of a lot of trees, and so that when we're coming back in this direction, hopefully they won't be able to follow us, but if we sort of take our time a little bit and keep checking over our shoulders for our markings, we should be able to determine the direction that we need to go. Marinver says maybe we can jump from tree to tree. That's an interesting idea. Igor is definitely, Igor, you are now back outside the knife. That same knife is now hung onto Illyria's belt. And so, yeah, I think you would be able to do that if you wish. You are light of foot. Remember that the consequences for trying to fly, can be fairly dire, but you're not trying to fly. You might have to, make yourself a little bit lighter just to get up in the tree, but yeah, jumping from tree to tree, this seems like perhaps a safer option. And also, can we talk about how great an image it is? A little ghost jumping from tree to tree. A little ghost lad. I love this. Okay, so this is your first move. We're gonna fill in 1 on our countdown. That's 1 out of 4. Let's see what you can do about this. So, I don't think that you're gonna be, I don't think you've got any help based on being an alchemist or necessarily your relationship of being hurt by Illyria, but your ghost is absolutely going to help. Now you're going to be flipping against 3 in this case because we really need to hurry and we are far off at this point. Against 3. We don't want tails. 1 tails, that's all you have to beat. If you can meet it or beat it. Now remember, in our last session we introduced a new mechanic called burn. You can choose, and by the way, I guess to do this, if you want to, if this is an action that you would be willing to burn energy on, go ahead and just pop the word burn into chat. I would say this is the sort of thing where I don't want one person to say burn and have that be sort of true for the whole crew. If you think this is worthy of a burn, go ahead and pop that into the chat, even though there's going to be a lot of repeats. So, in other words, if we've got a few people in here, I want to see and a lot of you want to burn, I want to see a lot of the word burn in chat here, because that will be important to me to know, like, okay, there are enough people who are in favor of this. It won't be a betrayal of y'all to try and burn some energy on this. But this means that you are essentially going to accept the fact that you're pushing yourself a little too hard, and you are not going to have this energy available to you until the next time you rest up. Now you just rested. It may be a while before you get another rest in. So it's a risk. Essentially, it ensures that you've got at least 1 heads. Gems says, all right, I'm going to catch up later. I got to sleep. Gems, I hope you have a fantastic one. It's been great to have you here, and I hope things are really going great in the house. You are, you know what? You're doing it, Gems. I hope you're excited, because I certainly am. I mean, I know you are. I know we've been talking about it, Gems. I know you are. I hope you have a great rest, and that you and the little, we need a nickname for the little one. Little Gems, not little Gems. That's no good, because we've got sushi and sashimi. I feel like we need a title. We need a title for the small one. Because the small one's not good. Little Carrot? Because you know how you rate Gems, like C-A-R-A-T? Little Carrot? I don't know. We'll have to figure something out. It's up to you, Gems. Okay. Jewel. Not bad. Not bad. Have a good one. Okay. We've got multiple votes to save it. Okay, so in that case, we're gonna go ahead and flip 2 automatically here, and hope that we do okay. Now I will say, Illyria is gonna try and help on this one, and I think that I'm gonna be able to help with my my cursed protector here, because as we travel through the forest, Illyria is suddenly seized by something strong. Watching as Igor bounces between tree and tree, Illyria is suddenly overcome by this strong feeling that Igor may be more important than these other missions that we're on. We've been traveling with this pack for some time now, and although Illyria is pretty well caught up in it costs being a lycan, and yet this is something that's pretty important to Illyria. Just having this large community that is not only accepting of who they are, but accepting of the fact that they want to adventure, they want to see more of the world. And so Illyria's been pretty distracted. But watching Igor bounce from tree to tree, Illyria is suddenly seized by the knowledge that this is more important. Lightning streaks across Illyria's vision, and for just a moment, Illyria stops stunned and blinded. But it's just Igor. Igor, your ghostly frame bounces from tree to tree. I'm helping with my Igor's Cursed Protector stat, with my facet. That's 3 heads right there. We thunder through the forest, and Igor, bouncing from tree to tree, leads the way. Illyria is falling behind a little bit here, and as they do so, Igor is scouting ahead. But although this is not how we used to operate, we had our patterns back in the day, but we've learned quite a bit. We're better than we were before, at the very least, and even more so, we've got different abilities. Igor as a ghost, me as a lycan. We're more capable than we were before. And as Igor bounces from tree to tree, Igor, you get out quite a pace ahead of us, and yet we are still well connected here. I'm plenty close behind to try and make this happen. I think Illyria is going to be up next here, and I actually think I get to flip all 4 here, which is great news, because we're doing something to help Igor. I am a werewolf pup of the Eternal Hunger, and I think I'm absolutely using my sense of smell, my heightened sense of smell, to try and track what we're doing here. And then as a self-taught expeditioneer, I think that helps with the tracking as well. So, okay, that's good, because we've got two tails here, so I've got to beat 2. Meet or beat 2. Yeah, I think Igor did notice them stop, but it was only for a second. It was just sort of a momentary, stop, and then Illyria is back on their way once more. Oh, no! I had 4 to flip, and they all 4 came up tails. Okay, now this means that our countdown timer knocks down once more, but we don't make any further progress here. Illyria stops for a moment. Conflicted once more. Yes, Igor is important, of course, but that food that they left behind. Illyria is torn between wanting to help Igor on this mission that is very important to both of them. Why was Igor murdered? And yet, at the same time, Illyria's been reprimanded. This group that has meant so much to Illyria for the past few months, Chu, this new friend, someone that Illyria considers a mentor, even though she's only a very small bit older than Illyria is. Illyria doesn't like that she's angry with them. And so Illyria gets distracted. Igor, you catch a glimpse over your shoulder of Illyria, a perfectly acceptable distance behind you, and as you sprint through the trees, jumping from one to the other, lightly landing on branches, causing nearly no shake, the birds in the trees don't even stop singing as you pass by. Your ghostly form rushing from branch to branch. It's quiet. It's silent. And then you turn back, and there is no Illyria to be seen. You hear crashing in the woods, and you know that Illyria is back there somewhere, but you also know how few chances you have to get this right. Illyria, what's going on? From in the distance, you hear, "The food! It was around here somewhere, I know it!" Illyria is down on all fours, smelling at tree roots and patches of mud as the ground gets drier, because it was getting wetter when we ran in this direction, but now we're running back the way that we came, and it gets getting drier and drier as we move on. The prints are less easy to follow. Illyria is trying to find out where this barrel of bacon went down, and to no avail. Igor, you have 2 actions, and you need to fill this 6 clock here.
Do you want me to come back and help? No. We have to keep moving. I was just hoping that I could find it on our way. I don't want to go back empty-handed.
Igor, I'm just going to tell you straight up, you don't have time for this. You know that if there's any hope of you getting to this wagon in time, hopefully it is still nearby, and then getting back to the pack before they leave, before they move on. You know you don't have time for this. You may have to simply go.
If we're going to get to the wagon, we've got to move now. We may find something on the way back. Now, come on!
You continue to hear thrashing behind you. Igor, it's your turn. Are you going to sort of go back and try to hunt down Illyria, or are you going to proceed forward and trust that Illyria is going to be able to follow and find you? Man, my stats were so good for that. I only had to meter beat 2, and I had 4, and they all flipped tails. That is rough. I'm going to tell you all that once this 4 clock runs out, that's bad news. And you know, when we come back to this, if we can't complete it, I don't know just how bad it's going to be, but something big has been sacrificed if we run out of this and we can't make it far enough forward. Continuing forward, says Monkey. Okay, fantastic. Now, we have a bit of an issue here. Igor, it is the early morning, but the sun is up. Your ability to sort of interact with the daylight is greatly diminished. It makes you very uncomfortable, and it is going to be tough for you to proceed like this too much longer. I think the sun is just starting to come up. It's still gentle in the sky, but sunrise is a powerful one. Sunset, you start to feel powerful, but sunrise is almost, it's almost worse than like high noon. Sunrise is a violent experience for you. You feel the sunlight chilling you in your non-existent bones, and as the sun filters through these trees, you feel yourself getting more and more faded. You disappear more and more, and in your mind, you can feel yourself receding further and further back into this cave. Igor rushes forward and shouts for Illyria to follow. All right. Are you going to kind of continue on to what you're doing here? I think you were going to get to flip more coins here. Now, because Illyria did so poorly, unexpectedly, these next 2 moves need to be full successes. They can't be partial successes. They need to be full successes. This is going to be super important. It is possible that we're getting into like necessary burn territory here. I'm gonna flip, and we're gonna find out just how much you have to go up against. Igor, it is absolutely vital that you make it to this wagon, and soon. You do not have time to wait for Illyria.
Illyria, I cannot pick up the supplies from the wagon if you don't come with me. Please help me.
Jumping from tree to tree once more, you turn and let Illyria fall behind a bit. You must be successful here. And with 2 heads from our challenge coins, you don't even need to flip yours, much less burn anything. Your way is aided dramatically as you see bits of hacked off branches here up high in the trees. And you remember last night during our flight, you, as you possessed this knife, hacked branches off of trees to try and make them drop down below, and you can see different tree branches that have been dropped, and you see where they've landed. You see the path that we took when we came in this direction the first time, and you quickly flit from branch to branch with very little effort, seeing exactly the direction that we need to go. That is going to take care of 2 more progress bars here, 2 more pie slices out of our progress clock. We've only got 2 left to fill. We've only got one segment left in our countdown clock. Illyria rushes on behind. Igor, you can see up ahead a long, clean line that indicates probably a road. You imagine it is the road upon which you left the wagon. Illyria, tumbling around, realizes, of course, that this mission for this barrel of bacon is not worth abandoning our whole mission, certainly, and is going to try and catch up. Oh my god. The absolute worst luck once more. Still rescuable, however. Out of the 2 coins that I flipped, both of them came up tails. I need 3 heads. I need 3. If I don't get 3, this doesn't happen. I have got my relationship facet. I have got my expeditioneer facet. I have got my werewolf facet. I'm going to be able to use all of these. This is definitely potential burn territory. And Igor, if you want to try and take a help sort of action, I will allow that as well, which will add 1 extra coin onto our situation here. Illyria comes upon big marks in trees. It looks like they have been sort of hacked to pieces as flying knives and hatchets from that little twerp with the sideburns flew through and tried to take our heads off. This means we're going to flip 2, and then we're going to find out what happens from there, because Illyria is absolutely willing to burn for this. 1 heads. Excellent. Gonna flip again. 2 heads. Excellent. I only need 1 more, and I've got 3 coins available to me. Illyria is following, looking up, has barely got a glimpse of Igor up in the trees up ahead. Illyria dodges, trips over tree roots, but keeps eyes on Igor as Igor blazes the trail and leads away. 3 heads. Stumbling onto the road suddenly, Illyria looks up. Igor is perched in a tree just off to the side of the road, and the wagon is nowhere to be seen for just a moment. However, this is a pretty untrod road. It's overgrown, and the evidence of 3 wagons is easy to see. We follow along the road, able to stay together very easily now, and having reached the road, having reached the trail that we need to follow, we suddenly come upon the wagons up ahead. Illyria hides behind the tree in which Igor is perched and whispers up to you. Igor, I can hear them. They're up ahead. And indeed, the sounds of grumbling, the sounds of weapons being sharpened, it sounds like. The sounds of wagon wheels creaking and horses fussing as they plod on forward. Tired, cranky voices ring out.
I told you we should have kept chasing them. You're a fine archer and a fine spearman, and you just let them go.
They were kids.
Well, I don't care if they were kids. They've got all of our food. What do a bunch of kids need with all of our food? What are they doing out here in the forest this way anyway?
Shut up. We proceed along the road, and we've got a good view of this little caravan moving very slowly back toward Dawngreet. it seems that they have to abandon their initial plans here. It'll be about a day or two back to Dawngreet from here. Well, they have to go back and resupply if they're going to go out on their expeditioneering mission.
Huh? They think that we have got the food. Well, we certainly took a lot of it. I think that even the bits that I dropped, perhaps they didn't find that barrel. I was in a bit of a daze, but I think we pretty well cleaned them out. That wagon was almost picked clean even by the time I got to it. The pack is efficient. Chu has either got them trained well, or I guess being around Ravenous just makes our instincts so much stronger. It makes us good hunters, but it comes with a lot of weight, Igor, I'm telling you. Are you feeling all right in the sunlight?
Igor, you are not feeling all right in the sunlight. You're doing your best here, but as the sun comes up, you can absolutely feel yourself fading underneath its pressure, and that cold sting of sunlight is going to come with a roll attached to it. You are a recently murdered ghost. I'm going to let you flip those 2 coins. And I'm going to call this pretty even odds here. It's going to be 2 versus 2. Let's find out what we've got here. 1 tails. You have to meet or beat 1 tails here. That's a miss. Igor, until you get a chance to remedy this situation, either by hiding from the sunlight somewhere or gaining a much more efficient covering for yourself, something, until you get yourself out of the sunlight, you're going to be flipping with 1 fewer ghost facet. This is not the same thing as losing energy, so you'll get this back as soon as you remedy the situation. You don't have to wait all the way until you get a chance to rest and sort of sleep it off. But until you get a chance to remedy this, you are definitely going to be in some trouble. Igor says,
so the food must still be where you dropped it. Can you track it down like your life depends on it? Because mine might. Do you think that we can approach this wagon? I promise I won't try to ambush it. I don't need to raid it again, especially if that barrel is somewhere back in the forest on the path. We can find it on our way back. We got here, I think, with enough time, I think. But that wagon, that last wagon, it might have some information for us. For you. About what happened. Maybe it won't, I don't know, but it could. Would save us a trip all the way back to Dawngreet. All right. Let's not waste any time, but we need to be careful. Perhaps if I can get underneath it. Maybe if I provide a distraction, then we can stop it just enough time. I don't want them to see me. I won't be seen. At least I'll try.
They grin up at you from their position hidden behind this tree, watching as these wagons trundle slowly away. I'll be able to get out in front of this thing. That shouldn't be too much trouble, but the distraction without also being spotted, that might be a little bit dicey. But if we can get them to stop, then maybe you can get underneath it. Now, Igor, I am open to other plans as well. Let's see. Dahlia says, I think it's too late to inspect the wagon, so I think the food is the safer option to go for. As the two of us peer out at this caravan making our plans, Illyria, once again, struck by this vision of lightning. It flashes across our vision just for a moment, and they look guiltily up at Igor.
Igor, I left you behind. I'm not going to leave behind your chance to learn something about what happened to you.
And Illyria runs off ahead. We are no longer bound to this clock. This clock was sort of like a half mile at a time, literally, and so Like, this was a much larger scale of time. We are no longer sort of beholden to it in the same way. If we spend a little bit of time here, that's okay. It is a matter of risk, not time anymore. We got here with enough time. We're speedy enough. Now we just have to be stealthy enough. Illyria rushes off ahead, and as I said, I think it's going to be easy enough to get up in front of it, but I am going to make a flip here to see if Illyria can do it without being spotted. Now, Illyria is, I mean, a werewolf pup, self-taught expeditioneer, and Igor's cursed protector. Does expeditioneer? I don't know that expeditioneer is going to help me on this roll, on this flip. So I think it's going to be 1 versus 2 here. All right. Oh, tree hopping absolutely worked, Marinver. Okay, let me see here. Okay. The ditch along either side of this small dirt road provides plenty of cover as Illyria sort of roadie runs forward, making very little noise. Their feet pad the ground, and Igor, you notice their gait is different. They move differently than they did before. Spending time around Ravenu and the other lycan has absolutely had an impact on how they carry themselves, and the spear sort of trails behind instead of being held up at the ready forward as Illyria had been trained to do in their childhood. Instead, it now sort of trails behind. Illyria leads with their nose now. They're changing. Growing? Maybe, but certainly changing. Igor, you watch as Illyria, driven by a bit of guilt, rushes forward and is getting set up to try and stop this wagon without being spotted. Now, Illyria is going to... So I have to make a choice here. I think I'm going to say, to stop all 3 wagons, it's going to be fairly easy. To stop just 1 wagon is going to be pretty hard. So I'm going to say it's going to be probably just 1 coin to just stop the wagons. Maybe 2 to do it without being spotted, and then 3 to do it without being spotted and only stop the 1 wagon. So I'm not going to try and stop just 1. I'm going to try and stop the whole caravan here. It's going to be against 2 of my coins. I think, let's see, what's going to be the best way to stop this crew here? I feel like, I mean, like scaring the horses would be great. I can sort of like block the way a bit. Or I can sort of try and get the people distracted. What do I want to do here? Illyria, this is part of the difficulty of playing both sides. You would think that I would just be like infinitely creative because I can do anything that I want and I recognize exactly what is and isn't limited, because it's, you know, I'm running the session as well, but it definitely, it feels strange. It feels strange. Illyria's going to try and rush forward around a bend in the road. Igor, perhaps a little disturbingly, Illyria rushes forward past a bend in the road and around kind of a blind corner. Illyria, meanwhile, rushes up to a small, weak-looking tree with dead branches and ties a rope off onto sort of the highest branch that they can reach, and then sprints across the road and lies in wait on the other side. Now, this road is overhung with vines and trees, and so the risk of the rope being spotted is not very high. But is Illyria going to be able to tumble this tree down without being spotted? Let's find out. I think Illyria's going to try and sort of rush forward and move right quick, and so just trying to get this thing down into the road. I'm not going to try and drop it on the caravan, just in front of it. All I need to do is stop them because there's not a lot of space around. So let me see. Self-taught expeditioneer, tree felling. I think that may well count. I'd be willing to count that. Werewolf pup is not going to help, but Igor's cursed protector is. So here we go. 2 coins to try and make this happen. 1 tails. I got to beat 1 out of 3 coins here. Meet or beat. Here we go, folks. I don't think I'm going to burn on this, because I think I can try something riskier if this doesn't work. Okay, I meet it. Illyria ducks into the ditch on the other side of the road and heaves on this rope, just pulling as hard as I can, trying to get this tree to crack down. And as it comes down, Illyria suddenly finds himself in the path of the tree itself, and the foliage up on top has taken down a bunch of branches, and so Illyria has managed to cover up the road, but Illyria is also trapped in the fallen branches of this tree. Illyria got a little bit too enthusiastic, pulled a little too hard. Igor, you hear two things. First, far up ahead, tree crashing. Second, as you are sort of nearby enough to hear the wagon, you can hear the expeditioneers inside.
Oh, Lordy. Oh, gods above, what is that? I thought we were done with trouble.
We're not done with trouble. I told you they would come back, didn't I?
You shut up.
No, I said it. I said they were gonna come back, and they done it. All these rabble-roused kids. Here to steal what's left of our food, here to steal the weapons. We ain't even gonna make it back to Dawngree at this rate.
You shut up. They were kids. Maybe they needed it better than we did.
Needed it more than we did? We're trying to undertake a journey of a lifetime. We've got a tip. I paid handsomely for that tip. You think a trapped autumn storm is something to scoff at? What if someone gets there first?
No one's gonna get there first. No one else even knows it's there.
But someone could find it. Well, we're going back and forth doing grocery shopping.
Oi, let's just find out what's up ahead here, yeah?
The woman carrying the battle axe is hopping off of the wagon as the wagon slowly come to a halt and proceeding forward, axe at the ready. I'll give you a bit of a sort of a lay of the land here. Out in the very front, we have got a fallen tree that crosses the road. It blocks off the road, but Illyria is also sort of tangled in the branches. Next, we have 3 wagons stopped in the road with a woman with a battle axe. A thin, fit orc woman is now heading forward with this axe in hand, big old battle axe in hand. So behind that, then you've got these 3 wagons. At the very tail end of this little 3-wagon train is the wagon under which you were murdered, Igor. It does have a driver. It's being driven by the sort of like deeper voiced, maybe slightly more magnanimous individual. Whereas the chuck wagon, the wagon with all of the food supplies, that's the middle one, and that's being driven by the cantankerous one with the sideburns.
He talks like this.
That's him. And then in the rear, about 20 yards behind, is Igor up in a tree. Dahlia has an idea. Sneak through the foliage up to the last wagon and start investigating it. Inside first if the occupants aren't in the vehicle. Okay. All right. Ah, geez, says Dahlia. Marinbear says, can we maybe like turn into a mist and then reform once we are under the last wagon? Okay, all right. So, and Dahlia says, I hope Illyria knows it was a hit and run job, so they need to run long ways back to where we made plans earlier. Yeah, Illyria got a little impulsive in their guilt. And so who knows what's going on in Illyria's mind right now. Even Sam is not 100% sure. No, Sam kind of knows, but okay. Igor, you're gonna try and get up to that last wagon, it sounds like. I'm gonna say that I think you just get to flip the 1 overall. Now this is absolutely going to count as like Illyria's going to try and help with this, so that'll give you an extra coin, but it also is not going to be a difficult one. You've got a distracted group that is really not paying much attention to you. It's just going to be a 1, and it's a heads. Igor, you drift along the grass nearby. You fade into a bit of a mist here. and pass not just between the foliage, but through it. It shakes very little as you pass by, and you float down low to the dirt road here, passing through the cheerful green grass in between the tracks of mud left by these wagons heading to and fro, and you find yourself in the shadow of this wagon. It is a covered wagon. All three of them are. This one looks like it's got a new cover on it. New to this wagon. It was uncovered when you first encountered it. It looks like kind of a patchwork of old bits of canvas and burlap. The middle wagon is not covered at all because that cover got sort of shredded off by a bunch of young lycan. But this rear one, it is covered loosely. There is a front sort of bench on it. It's being drawn by 2 horses. It is not huge, but you can imagine sort of an Oregon Trail style wagon at a slightly smaller scale. Very slightly smaller. And pretty rough shape this sucker's in. It's definitely sort of it's the tail wagon. It's not designed to blaze trails here. It is just designed to follow in the tracks made by the other 2. If any of them are going to get stuck, it's going to be this one. Igor, you are seized by chills that have nothing to do with the sunlight. These chills run through you and bring you suddenly forward. You're not exposed to the light of the morning any longer, and that helps. You're no longer pushed deep into that cave like the sunrise tends to do. But you are seized and you're gripped by this sudden sensation of being close to your death. It feels something like being at the top of a tall cliff and looking down, not risking too much, not leaping close to the edge, and yet you've got a sense that any strong wind brings you close to this place. This place where you met your end. My dear, nearly departed. Dahlia says, can we find any blankets, umbrellas, or other things that we can use to cover ourselves on our return trip back to the pack? Absolutely. Let's see if we can find you anything. This, I think, is going to be not terribly difficult. We'll say one for the basic effort, and then 1 to do so because you know there's somebody else in this wagon up ahead. So we'll see how difficult this turns out to be. You're here. The wagon train. He seems to be sort of the commander of this venture, the leader of this venture, but also taking up the rearmost wagon. He's driving this rearmost and crappiest wagon. Illyria, up in front of this caravan, is listening as this individual approaches. Now, Illyria is pretty well hidden by the foliage here, and I think is going to try and use it to just sort of nestle deeper down into this foliage. I think Illyria is going to try and not move, and just hopefully let this threat pass a little bit. The threat is going to be 2. 1 tails, okay. Lycan's going to help me out here. This had better be a heads if I even just want a partial success. Okay. Partial success. I got the heads. Okay, that's good at least. It's not a full failure. The foliage on this downed tree rustle a bit as Illyria digs themselves deeper into the branches. I'm trapped. No sense on making a lot of noise to try and sprint out. I just try to hide deeper and deeper into the foliage. And as this orc woman approaches, hefting the battle axe over her shoulder, she says,
I don't see anything too spooky. It's an old tree.
This orc woman hefts the battle axe over her shoulder, just resting a limp wrist on it. doesn't seem too concerned, because of course there haven't been, you know, shouts or footsteps up ahead.
I don't know about this. Just looks like an old tree what fell down. Doesn't look like too much trouble.
She unshoulders the axe and grips it in two hands.
Might have to chop it up at both ends here, but I think after that, maybe we can unhook an horse and try to drag this log off the road. Yeah, what do you think?
It's worth trying. Just make it happen quickly.
Yeah, well, a little bit of help might be appropriate, don't you think?
I do. All right, go on then.
He jerks his chin toward the small man with the sideburns, who angrily grunts and jumps down off the wagon. Illyria stays stock still as a second set of footsteps approach, and a sudden thunk, thunk, thunk. The woman with the axe has begun over at the far end, toward the roots, or on the other side of the road. That end is not going to take very long to disconnect here, but after that, she's going to be coming over to the other end, very close to where we're at, to try and chop the other end of this log up and clear it out of the way.
But aren't you going to get down here and help yourself?
No. On the chance that this is a setup for an ambush, I'd much rather be ready.
You hear a sword being drawn, Igor, and this individual lands solidly on his two strong feet on the dirt path beside this wagon that you are underneath. Come on now. Okay. All right. It looks like things are getting dicey here. Things are getting dicey here vis-a-vis internet. So I am going to try and get us to a reasonable conclusion, and then we will continue on, and maybe that will be part of the episode, maybe not. But I do have permission to speak in this channel. Hold up. There we go. Okay, we're back. Igor, you watch as these 2 feet on solid legs hit the ground next to you, and you see an enormous broadsword, kind of a claymore-looking thing, held low at the ready, and you try with all of your might not to be spotted. You do indeed manage to get yourself, you do indeed manage to find something useful. You find a blanket, something strong. It appears to be a pretty thick thing, where in the average time, you would probably consider this a real blessing, because it is cold out here after all. There is a winter storm passing through this area, and so the air is chilly, and yet, as a ghost, that doesn't bother you too much anymore. However, this blanket's going to be nice to have. Now, it may be a little bit tough to carry it along with you at all times, but you are now, once again, you are covered up from the sunlight, and so you're going to be able to use your full ghost facet. Excellent. Now, Igor. Igor. I believe Marin Ver said, can we see anything that looks familiar? Igor, you are hunting through this wagon, trying your best not to be spotted. As you hear on the outside, this individual, this man has just leapt down to the ground and drawn his claymore and is sort of just standing casually at the ready, just in case this is indeed an ambush, which, after a fashion, maybe you could call it an ambush. As he steps down, you jump up. You find the end of this thick woven blanket. It is a blue and white sort of stripe pattern with some big chevron shapes, and you manage to get up underneath it just as he steps down. Your timing is excellent, and you hop up into this car. Now, this was just a partial success, which means that blanket might be a little bit of trouble in the future, but for right now, you are very protected, and you'll be able to bring it with you. You start to search through this wagon. You can see the old timbers burned out by the sun and rain. It had been totally abandoned, poorly cared for, and just left there in the Expeditioneers camp, where you and Illyria found it and tacked up a little bit of dirty canvas around the edge and slept underneath it. It provided just enough warmth, and when you grabbed a few coals from someone's dying fire to put down by your feet, well, it was almost cozy. Now, it gives off a radiating dark energy as the site where you died. Dahlia says, time to investigate under the wagon and if there's some clues or residual energies that we sense from where we were killed. You're going to get a chance to search this search this wagon above and below. And in the wagon up above, you rustle through some of the supplies here. You're not looking to really take anything, and frankly, what you see are a lot of very mundane supplies, carpentry equipment, tools for sharpening weapons, rope and salt and grain. Very basic items. Nothing impressive on that front. But you're looking at the wagon itself and picking from bit to bit here. You never spent much time up in the wagon because that would sort of draw attention to your little hiding spot underneath it. And so you didn't spend a lot of time up there. And as you poke around at different bits, let's get a roll from you. I think, once again, it would be just 1 to sort of search over this wagon, but I'm going to call it 2 because you're trying to do so quietly and secretively. All right, you got to beat 1. I think your ghost facet is definitely going to apply here. We flipping or burning? Are we burning this one? Monkey says, let's see if our little spirit tugs us towards something. Yes, indeed. I don't think your alchemist isn't going to help with this one, which is fine because you burned the energy in there anyway. Hurt by Illyria, I don't think that's going to be particularly handy. But you know what? I think at this point, Illyria is going to risk it. Not necessarily knowing exactly what you're up to, but knowing that you've had enough time to get to it. And Illyria, I think, is going to give you a 3rd coin by helping you out. And Illyria is going to put themselves at a bit of risk.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Right there. It's off in the forest, off to the left side.
You hear shaking foliage up in front. You got to meet or beat a 1. So I'm going to do some flipping here. First one is tails. Now, just to meet it, you need at least one of these to be heads. This is the second one. If this is tails, then you have to burn just to not miss. Okay, we've got 1 heads. Do we want to flip it and get the possibility of a full success? Or do we want to burn it and ensure a full success? There's our question. We've got 1 heads. We've matched it already. The worst we can do at this point is a partial success. Are we fine with that? Or do we want to burn another one here? And we're starting to tire ourselves out a little bit. And ensure that we've got a full success to sort of search this wagon. What do we want to do? And while y'all are making that decision, remember, any of you good new folks, my name is Sam, this is Sidecar Stories, and this is a chat play campaign. If you want to know more about that, go ahead and use the lore command. Chat is playing a character named Igor. He is a ghost lad, and he is a recently murdered ghost. Recently, in the past few months, I would say. And with that, it might interest you to know we have now found that we crossed paths once more with the wagon that we called home when Igor was murdered. Okay. We're going to risk the flip. Here we go. This could either be a full success or a partial success. Let's see. No need to burn, gang. That is a full success. Fantastic. Igor. Silently. And by the way, I want to just make it super clear to anyone sort of seeing this visually. If someone were to peek into the back of this wagon, what they would see is almost like a slug, a blanket just sort of slowly kind of noodling around in the back of this covered wagon. There's no one in here or on this wagon anymore. You can hear the footsteps of the man with the claymore just pacing up and down, now kind of alert, looking forward as some sounds have indicated, well, this might be an ambush after all. Here in the back, this blue and white striped blanket just creeps. It just slides and creeps. Like hell to pay. Toupee. That's a little goof 'em up if y'all want to find that. It slides over barrels and chests, looking for markings and clues on the wagon itself. And you find, Igor, you see a plate with a maker's mark. Above, an address. The gate town of Fabra. You recognize the markings of gate towns. These districts are large and they are exactly what they sound like. Although the borders of Rosita's Towers are enormous, there are only a few places where the enormous ramps or lifts go from the ground level up into the towers. It isn't a very gradual transition from tower to flat land, and as such, these gate towns are necessary to get from the frontier into the towns themselves, other than simply wandering in amidst the dark foundations. The gate town of Fabra, and above the address, a name. A name you'll have to decipher as you peel this plate off of the wall. It is thin, but hard wood. It feels expensive almost. At one point, it must have been lacquered and protected, but now you can barely make out this name written in the same runes, etched into the weapon that killed you. That split second when you awoke and found yourself trapped with a chain around your neck, a chain etched with these very same runes, you recognize that these runes follow you everywhere that you go. And as you pull that plate off the wall, you keep your blanket tight over your head, you slip off of the back of this wagon. Illyria is shaking around in this bush, and fortunately, it was a full success. Illyria shares in whatever consequences come of that, but you got a full success, so there aren't really any consequences. Igor, you can't really see or hear much, but Illyria, hidden down in this foliage, hears footsteps approaching.
I think I've done pretty good job down at the other end there. I think only thing less to do is this. It seems a little bit less dead, so it might take me a bit longer. I know I heard something off in the bush there.
See, I told you.
I know, nobody's arguing with you. Gods above.
Illyria is going to try and get free here. Oh boy. For Illyria, this is going to be tough. I think being a wolf is going to make me, I don't know, boy. I don't even know if I can count that. I am not a stealthy individual. And so I think with this axe nearby, I'm going to say this is just a challenge of 2. And then I'm just going to have to cross my fingers and hope that this works. Oh, 2 tails. Oh man. I need 2 just to match, just to get a partial success. I mean, self-taught expeditioneer, I don't think so. That's not gonna help me stealth away here. Werewolf pup with the eternal hunger, I don't think that's gonna be particularly helpful. Igor's cursed protector, I don't think so, gang. I mean, because no matter what I do, the expeditioneer is not gonna help me. And then even if I can pick one of those facets that I can sort of loosely apply, I can only get a maximum of 1. This battle axe swings down into the tree.
I'm gonna have to sharpen it again after this. You know, we really should invest in a good felling axe. This one's... Oi. Not another one.
I told ya!
Illyria is still trapped inside this bunch of foliage here as these 2 expeditioneers descend on the foliage.
I told ya! Alright, you little piggy, where's our food, huh?
Illyria's trapped. These 2 descend on them, and suddenly, things get a whole lot hotter here. Illyria tries to rustle deeper, further back into this foliage here as Igor, over on the other end of the wagon train, slips out of the back of this and doing what you can to hold this blanket over your head while also hold on to the this little wooden plate with a clue as to, it seems, where so many of your problems originate. You hear as this battle axe falls again and again and again, chopping off branches slowly, branch by branch, exposing Illyria further and further to this crazed, slight man with his massive sideburns, his shrill, grating voice, and his cleavers, 1 in each hand. He prods down into the foliage. Even as their leader with the claymore starts to sort of wave them off, he says, No, we're not going to hurt them. We gotta find out where they went with our food. Still, hunger and frustration has gotten to these other 2, and they are not following orders very well. She continues to battle axe, cleave these branches off, and he, with his cleavers, continues to poke down in and barely miss Illyria as they are covered just a little bit by the remaining foliage here. Illyria is caught, literally, figuratively, and if Illyria can't get free before they get down to them, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. Igor, what do you want to do here? You know Illyria is adept with their weapons. Illyria can hold people off. This is one of the things that Illyria is best at. So, frankly, Illyria is, of the 2 of you, Illyria is definitely the one that you want to have been caught. But are you going to try and help, knowing that you would be very exposed, depending on how you try and help? Or are you going to try and take off, and do you just sort of trust that Illyria is going to be able to get free of this on their own? Marinver says, can we use our alchemy to set one of the wagons on fire? I mean, I tell you what, remember you did burn your alchemy energy, which means that you will be able to do something called basic effort. That means you get to flip 1 coin. There is no, you are not going to be able to burn if you just to use basic effort, and you won't be able to do anything that a novice couldn't do. So in other words, like you're sort of average person unskilled in this thing. So if you want to try and set the wagon on fire, you'll get 1 basic effort. You cannot burn it. Let's see. I mean, you would be able to use, you're doing this thing directly to try and protect Illyria. So you'd be able to use your Illyria facet. And if you want to try and do this without being caught, the difficulty's higher, but you can also use your ghost facet. If you don't care about being caught, you don't use the ghost facet, but it's also going to be a lot easier because all you're trying to do is light this wagon on fire. So, yeah, basically a couple of options here. Are you going to stay or are you going to leave? And if you want to stay and light this wagon on fire, are you going to try and stealth it, or are you just going to try and are you going for stealth or mayhem? So those are the two questions. The first question is stay and light the fire, or get away. So fire or escape. And then B, if you choose fire, are you going to try and do stealth or mayhem? Make a distraction, try and get away, says Dahlia. I think we've got enough info so we can bolt after doing so. Yeah, there's not a lot of like extra food to be gathered. The equipment here is all very mundane and not really anything that you need. This address, I mean, you've literally got a direct address to someone who will have a direct pipeline to the weapons, at the very least, used by both Luca Brusca and your murderer. Maybe those are the same people, maybe they're not. All right, it sounds like we've got 3 votes for a distraction here. Igor, you can't do much more than your sort of average peon. You're too exhausted. Your alchemy skills are failing you right now because you're tired. And you've got your blanket, you've got your clue, you're covered, you're protected from the sunrise, and you have got this clue that you came here to get. Your mission is a success. All you have to do is exfiltrate now. And so, you're going to try and light this wagon on fire. The next question is, stealth or no? Stealth or mayhem? If you want to do stealth, you are going to get to use your ghost facet, so you get to flip more coins, but it's also going to be more difficult because it's harder to secretly light a wagon on fire than to just light a wagon on fire. So, stealth or mayhem? It'll be more difficult, but you get to use more of your skills if you choose mayhem. Nope, if you choose stealth. And then if you choose mayhem, you'll get to use fewer skills, but you will get to you'll get an easier time with it. All right, there's our question. If you choose like if you've got an applicable facet, you can flip it and burn it. If you don't have an applicable facet, you get to flip one for basic effort, but it cannot be burned. Whatever happens, happens. Luis says mayhem may cause the necessary distraction. Yeah, that's essentially just like, yeah, you find something to light it on fire and just chuck it in there. Okay. It will be easier to do mayhem, I think, Marinver. Indeed. Okay, it looks like we've got some leanings toward mayhem. Don't forget, folks, if you are watching right now, go ahead and use the lore command at any time if you wish to find out what's going on here, how you can get involved, because I am playing the character of Illyria as well as running this session, but you are all playing the character of Igor. Igor moves however you tell him to move. Okay, mayhem it is. All right, just to get this wagon lit on fire, I think it's gonna be a challenge of 2. Now, if this were like nighttime and they had open lamps or open flames already, it would probably be 1. But right now, you're gonna have to find something to make fire. Okay, 1 tails. 1 tails. Okay. All right. Now you're trying to do this to help Illyria, and so you're going to be able to, if you want to burn this, you can. But keep in mind, you've already burned 1 energy. Apparently, chaos reigns supreme. It seems that way. I'm going to say, you know what? This one doesn't seem like necessarily like the best option for a burn. Ironically, let's see what you got here. Heads. That's a partial success, which hopefully will be enough. Igor, you rustle around in the back of this wagon, and you find a little keg of lamp oil. And doing so, you simply knock it out of the. You knock the cork out of this keg of oil. It's very small. It is gonna be plenty. you drop the you drop this oil onto the ground, and you find a little bit of you find a pack of flint in a little sack set on top of that same oil keg, and knocking it against just a random bit of metal nearby, looks like some horseshoes. You knock it against the horseshoe and spark a little bit of flame in the back of this wagon. And now you've got some mayhem in place.
You know what? I've tried to be nice, haven't I?
And inside, smoke starts to billow out, thick black smoke from this dirty lamp oil. The covering of this wagon tears open.
I've tried to be nice, alright? I've tried to be kind. I've tried to do whatever I can to understand why it is you all might be here for whatever we got in the back of our wagons. You've taken our food, you've taken supplies, and now you've set the wagon on fire. Where are you?
This claymore starts to poke in around the supplies in here. The jig is up, Igor, and you leap off the back of this wagon, flailing your blanket behind you and clutching tightly to this wooden plaque, this wooden engraving that contains the next bit of clue toward the mystery of your death.
Some people just want to watch the world burn. Some people want to find something and make a life for themselves. We got trapped all in the storm out in the wilderness, and the only thing between us and it was supposed to be a secret. Well, now it's a secret and a bunch of bloody children.
This person, once again, can't really see that you're a ghost. All he sees is he's got a target fleeing from having burned his wagon. The wagon's on fire. This is a smart distraction because now he has to choose whether to pursue you or save the wagon that he probably spent money to refurbish. And so I'm going to say that it is, it's really unlikely he's going to chase you here. So the desired truth is that he stays and does not chase. And so I'm going to call that very likely. I'm going to flip 3 coins. If any of them are heads, he stays there. 1 heads. Fantastic. This expeditioneer groans and says,
"Oh, come on!"
He chucks his claymore up onto the bench behind the horses who are whinnying and stomping on the ground as smoke continues to pour over them. He disappears underneath the remaining covering for this wagon, and you can hear him furiously stamping and stomping around in there as you flee into the woods. Illyria is given just the barest chance by this. Illyria's been caught. They're right here. But the pursuers are distracted. Against 2. Man, I'm having some bad luck here. Illyria, now I think Expeditioneer doesn't help me stay stealthy, but it's gonna help me fight my way out of this situation. Here we go.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
This might be worth burning for, though, I guess. I don't know. I gotta meet 2 just to be okay here. I think Illyria is going to risk it, and is indeed going to engage the werewolf facet. I'm gonna flip my first coin here. Illyria bares their teeth.
Oh God, what's that?
It's unnatural. That's what it is.
First one came up tails. Am I gonna burn 2 energy to make this happen? Oh. I'm gonna flip a second coin to find out if it's even worth burning it. 2 tails. I can't even match at this point. Thunk, thunk, thunk.
All right. You nasty creature. I know where you are now. I've seen you. I've seen your type. No wonder. I heard there were stories. Things
She grunts as she leans in, and her brow sweats as she, with a newfound fervor, hacks away at this these tree branches covering us. The last few branches fall away, and she says,
I knew you were protective of your territory, but this... well, this is just... hostile. You're an enemy. And I'm here to protect this caravan from enemies.
Illyria is now fully exposed and having to fight from a compromised position against 2 foes. This is really bad, y'all. Illyria is trapped still within these branches. Not as trapped as before, but still kind of prone, and is going to be fighting essentially from a fallen position. I think I'm going to give this sort of one attack, but with help from the man with the cleavers. 2 tails. Illyria is going to fight tooth and nail to get out of here. 2 tails, I've got 3 coins to flip here. I am going to... oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. These cleavers chop and slice all above Illyria. Illyria has to shrink back down into the foliage that is now fully exposed above them, and try to wrench around the spear from behind their shoulder. It's not coming easily, and this woman with now a dark fire in her eyes raises the battle axe high above, and Illyria is going to try and deflect it off to one side. Cling, clang. The spile spear tip finds purchase as Illyria swings this around their shoulder and clashes against the battle axe. The battle axe clangs off to one side and thuds into the tree trunk nearby, but Illyria is still on their back with not a lot of space to go, and this individual next to the attacker, this angry man with his sideburns and his cleavers, continues to hack away and just hamper Illyria. They're unable to get a good position here, and these 2 attackers are in hot pursuit. Igor, you are just along the road behind as one of these expeditioneers continues to try and put out the wagon. These other 2 are just standing over Illyria, raining down blows. Igor yells at these 2 attacking Illyria.
Your wagon is on fire! Go! Go! Attend to it! Or you will lose all!
These 2 are not in a position to be convinced of this. So, Igor, I think you are going to get 1 because of our relationship, but you're fighting against 3. Oh my good lord. Only one of them was tails. You only need a heads here, and you got a partial success. Igor, you shout, and you can see these 2 look at one another, look down. Let's see if the Rawk... oops. Let's see which one of them stays. Heads? Come on, stay in my hand here. We're gonna see which one of them stays, as the 2 of them look at each other, and only one of them is going to have sufficient motivation to stay here and continue to attack. Heads, it's the woman with her blind hatred of Duskin, and tails, it's the man with his just general fury at life. The battle axe creaks out of the trunk of this tree, and she raises it up to her shoulder. This expeditioneer woman stands over Illyria and says,
I don't see any of your disgusting friends around. So maybe I'll let him do what he wants.
She spits onto Illyria and steps back, rests this battle axe on her shoulder, groans, and jogs off toward the burning wagon to try and help. But this man with fury in his eyes. Not the fury of a man who hates Duskin, but a man who hates everything. He chops into the foliage all around. And as he does so, Illyria is doing whatever they can, just deflecting with the spear head, with the shaft of the spear. The beautifully carved eels spiraling up the sides of it are now nicked and cracked as these cleavers, these rusty, blunt cleavers, fall again and again. But there's only one attacker now, and Illyria is going to try and fight back here, fighting only with 2 coins because there's only one of him left. Illyria is I would say, an equally posed fighter, but a better person now because of the help that they are getting from being a werewolf. I only need to meet or beat 1. That's 2. That is a full success. Igor, you watch as suddenly
You little bastard!
the spear stabs up from underneath and catches this man in the shoulder, and Illyria stands. You can see gritted teeth, these teeth gritted and bared as the canine teeth of a werewolf. Illyria stands and, pushing back against this makeshift spearhead on this beautiful spear handle, pushes the man back further and further, holding him at a distance as he swings with his cleavers. He pushes against it in his fury, and the spile buries a little bit further into his shoulder, and he screams in fury,
I'm gonna kill you! I'm gonna gut you and burn you in that wagon!
He swipes back and forth with these cleavers, trying to hack the spear shaft in half. Illyria manages to stay just out of reach and pulls the spear back. The 2 of us are on equal footing now. As a matter of fact, Illyria is doing a bit better. As they have wounded this man, Illyria steps back and takes a pose that you see is very familiar, Igor. This pose is spear mounted forward, crouched low, but lower than before, and now with one of these spear points balanced on the ground as an additional point of contact. Illyria's fighting style is evolving from just a spear fighter into a lycan spear wielder. Illyria stabs out forward once more. The cleavers clang to one side as Illyria deflects one off in one direction, ping, deflects the other one off to the side, ping, and manages to catch the Expeditioneer just underneath the sideburns. Illyria stabs not through his neck, but next to his neck, and then uses that leverage to carry his head over to the side and send him flipping like a judo throw, head first into the ground. He falls onto the dirt road, and a tooth spits out as he just groans. He swings his cleavers feebly around, at least the one that's not sort of trapped under his body, but he is so fully out of it as Illyria has used his spear to just fling him to the ground. Igor, from underneath your blanket, off in the side of the forest, off to the side of this path, Igor says,
"Now run! Get away!"
Illyria just sprints off into the forest. It seemed like Igor, from the state that Illyria is in, it might have been sort of a 50-50 that Illyria would even pick the correct direction to travel, and yet they do. And the 2 of you rush off into the forest as a thin curl of smoke wisps up above the foliage from the burning wagon behind. You hold the blanket over your head as protection from the burning sunshine. It's no longer sunrise, and so the pressure diminishes somewhat, but you still feel that cold burn from sunlight. Illyria rushes through the forest in parallel with you. You don't know where Illyria's mind is at, but certainly Illyria is as much wolf right now as human, as at least in their mind, as they rush off, their instincts taking over and just simply rushing away from this danger back to join the pack. And you clutch in one hand the blanket over your head, and in the other you clutch the plaque, this maker's mark of dark oiled wood, faded by years of neglect, and yet marked with an address and signed in the very runes that were on the weapon that killed you. Rushing back into the forest, Igor and Illyria have successfully raided this caravan once more. I want to give a warm welcome to Space Lord Ray, a new follower. Welcome to the Punk Ruffians. Welcome to Sidecar Stories. If you are looking for more of this, we do this every Wednesday. We have had a fantastic session today. Mistakes were made last week as the two of us needed to get away quickly, along with the rest of the Lycan pack, and yet the missing food, perhaps we'll have a chance to find it, and the missed chance to find out more about how Igor died and why and by whose hand. We missed that chance last week, and now we have remedied it. This was super exciting. Space Lord Ray and anyone else who is new around here, please feel free to do two things. First of all, use the lore command at any time, and you can find out much more about this adventure and about the channel in general. The bit.ly/lorekeepers tome, bit.ly/lorekeepers tome, that is going to have maps and imagery and our character sheets. We are currently transitioning out of the Ironsworn character sheets into the Silver Bullet character sheets, which is going to be very, very simple and straightforward. And also, you can check out recitus.fandom.com, recitus.fandom.com. For the Realms of Recitus lore. We have got a decent bit of lore stocked up in there after our first campaign. It was a year-long campaign during which the chat and I played some arena fighters inside the Realms of Recitus, and specifically Recitus Towers, the massive metropolis at the center of this realm. Now we are on into our second campaign, wherein we are playing some kids at a secret school for Duskin. Duskin, of course, being vampires, ghosts, lycan, all sorts of those folks that are considered creatures of the night. I had an excellent time this week, y'all. Super exciting, and if y'all want to jump in and play, go ahead and read up just simply on that chat command there. If you want Igor to do something, go ahead and use the ampersand symbol at the beginning of your message. If you want Igor to say something, put it in quotes. To anyone who has stuck around just to listen and learn a little bit first, I appreciate you dearly. And if you want to find out more about this campaign and find all of the previous episodes, go ahead and use the playlists command, because I've got that for all of the various links to all of the various places where you can find Sidecar Stories. Everyone, it has been absolutely delightful today. I thought that was a great session. I had a ton of fun. And we found an important clue. This seems to be significant. I think next week, what we can expect is, I think I want to spend some time in a less action-filled session. I think next week, Igor, maybe, we're going to try and make sure that we can get back to our pack in time. at least Illyria's pack, the one that Igor is tagging along with. And assuming that everything goes well, which is a big assumption, I know, assuming everything goes well, I want to spend next week with a sort of a more investigative section. Very action-packed this week, and I think next week I want to give you all a chance. Remember, you've still got items from Professor Ertrick to explore, and you have got this new clue regarding your murder, Igor. Maybe we've got some time to go and pursue that. We may have to go check, and we may have to, go out and see if... Are we going to head down toward the gate town of Fabra? Are we going to head down toward Fabra instead of following Ravenu? That'll be a tough choice, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Y'all, thank you a ton. Dolly says these poor babies need some rest. Yeah, we've got all of you EU folks, all of you folks across the ocean that almost definitely need some rest at this point. We have a bit more to do today, but do feel free, if this is all you are, if you're just in it to play, that's totally fine. We've got some character stuff that we need to work on. Remember, a big part of Silver Bullet is to change our facets, to rewrite our facets, to reflect the truths of our campaign. And our characters especially. I'm going to read your current facets to you, and we're going to talk about our current quest as well, but I'm going to read your current facets to you, and we're going to decide if any of these should be changed. Should they be rewritten in some way? Often, I would say generally not totally rewritten, but maybe a part of it. Here are your facets, Igor. You have got the recently murdered ghost facet. You've got 2 energy in your recently murdered ghost facet. You've got 1 energy in your back alley alchemist facet, and 1 energy in your hurt by Illyria facet. There we go. Now that the first 2 are sort of background / skills, right? You are a ghost, so you can do ghostly things. You are a back alley alchemist, so you can do alchemist things and maybe some light black market stuff. And then, having been hurt by Illyria, that one's more of a relationship facet. We are tight, but last session I did kind of leave you behind in my distraction, in my fervor, and it makes perfect sense that Igor would feel hurt by Illyria. Do we think that changes back yet? Do we think that has changed, or do we think that Igor is still feeling kind of hurt by that? That's for y'all to decide. Illyria, meanwhile, and so go ahead and put in chat while I'm reading about Illyria's, just so we can sort of see both of these characters. Go ahead and put in chat if you think that any of those have changed, keep in mind, these are facets. These are not quests. These are simply like, this is your list of skills. So the quests, we'll talk about those in just a second, but the facets are simply like it's your character sheet. And I know some of you you have not caught up yet with how Silver Bullet works, but this game, it doesn't have a list of skills. It has an aspects system similar to the fate system. And so, if you're wondering about the entirety of my character sheet, I just read you your whole character sheet, Igor. My whole character sheet is 2 energy in the self-taught expeditioneer facet, 1 energy in the werewolf pup of the eternal hunger facet, and 1 energy in Igor's cursed protector facet. I think before so I've got Igor's Cursed Protector. I would love to demote this back down to Igor's Protector instead of Igor's Cursed Protector at some point, because facets can be good, but they can also be bad. They can have some negative effects. They are simply, remember, they are truths about our character, and that's how we handle these character sheets in Silver Bullet. I think that honestly, I don't think I can change that facet until which time I have helped you solve this murder. I think when I help Igor solve this murder, that is when I will be able to get rid of that cursed element of the protector. I think Werewolf Pup of the Eternal Hunger, I think that one has stayed pretty much the same. I don't think that's changed at all. And then we've got Self-Taught Expeditioneer, and I think that one has remained largely the same as well. I think we're in good shape with my facets. And yours, I think your back alley alchemist, probably very, very similar. I suppose we could change your recently murdered ghost. If you wanted to. I don't know if anything on that front would I can't think of any changes that would really affect how that plays out. not off the top of my head. If y'all have got any ideas, let me know. If we need to rewrite the title of that facet in some way that better reflects your character. And then I guess the big question then is hurt by Illyria. Are you still feeling hurt by Illyria? I want to be very clear. I think it would make perfect sense if you did. It would make perfect sense if you did. Dahlia says, we got experience for at least 2 skills today for finding clues to our ghost background and making the best of Illyria's opportunity to repay a hurt and saving them from the risky situation his favor drove them to. Very possible. Yeah, I think if Igor is no longer feeling like a little on the rocks with Illyria, that would definitely be why. I will say, Dahlia, we have up until this point, I know you've been listening to the back catalog, and so you've been hearing a lot of the first scroll, sort of the first, like. See, this is tough because this campaign is divided up into scrolls the same way that sort of your average show would be divided into seasons. But I also sort of consider the different campaigns to be the different seasons, so I divide campaigns up into scrolls. For the first scroll, the first 16 episodes, we were using a system called Ironsworn, and that one had this really specific, like, XP for specific stuff system. Silver Bullet does not have that. I actually don't love XP in RPG systems. I really like block leveling, or at the very least, like milestone leveling. And so, rather than having specific XP for specific stuff, now I am just going to say when we've reached certain sort of important moments or completed certain like big tasks or big missions, that's when we level up. It's not based on XP, and so when we level up, we just get 1 more energy, and we'll be able to, we can write a new facet, we can put that energy toward one of our existing facets, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's not super important to apply specific XP to stuff. However, Dahlia, I will say, it is still important to me that we talk about these quests, because these quests are the best ways, even if they don't apply to XP anymore, they're the best ways for me to track what is important or interesting to y'all. We no longer really have like a star system to apply to them. But basically, it was tough for me to run a more traditional style of campaign. When I might want to like pay off a certain adventure, a certain quest that you've got, but the numbers say, no, you still need to do like 8 more things. I might have decided that sort of narratively is already done, but the system might not have decided. So Silver Bullet different. So I still want to talk about these missions, and if you want to change any of them, are any of these quests different from what they were before? These quests here, Igor's current quests are: identify the items from Professor Ertrick, the Luca Brusca spy, avenge your own death, make a good impression on Pinelli, pursue academics, and learn about the faction dynamics in the territory. Are all of these still true? Are there any of these things that y'all just don't really care about anymore? Or are there any new quests that you're thinking like, this is important to me, so we'll call it a quest. This is important to me as a player. These can be things that you think are important to Igor especially as well, but mostly this is about you as a player. These quests are to help me include things in the campaign that y'all want to experience. So, do all of those sound applicable? I'm going to read off my quest as well, but as we talk about these quests, I want you to listen for anything. I'll reread them right now here, but I want you to listen for anything that sounds like A, I'm just not really interested in that anymore. That doesn't sound like an interesting part of this campaign. Or B, I want you to listen for things that you don't hear in there. For instance, if you're like, we've got this avenge your own death. I think that's why today's session included clues about your demise. That's why we've advanced down that road, because you've currently got that as one of your missions, one of your quests. And so, if you don't see anything in here, maybe you're super interested in, I don't know, maybe Igor has got like a thing for steel or something, and you think like, you know what, I really would love to get to know steel a lot better. Maybe we can include that. Maybe you are just angry with these expeditioneers for some reason, and you say you want a quest to really like ruin their prospects as expeditioneers. Whatever you think is important and you want to experience in this campaign, that's what quests are all about. So, Igor, your current quests are: identify the items from Professor Ertrick, the Lucabruska spy; avenge your own death; make a good impression on Pinelli; pursue academics; and learn about the faction dynamics in the territory. And before, I will mention, before there was a penalty for abandoning these quests. That is no longer true. Before, if you wanted to abandon a quest, you had the potential to take like stress from that, and stress could hurt you pretty badly. Now, these are just a way for me to keep tabs on what y'all are interested in. Dahlia says, the only quest I'm iffy on is Pinelli, but who knows? Maybe there could be more to it depending on the level of difficulty. The Pinelli quest, that is one where I think y'all sort of like wanted to make friends. For those of you who do not know much about Pinelli yet, Pinelli is another ghost back at school. So you haven't seen Pinelli in a few days, almost a week at this point. And so, yeah, maybe Pinelli is still important to you. Maybe Pinelli is like maybe Pinelli is someone who, like, as a ghost, someone who clearly has been a ghost for a while, and as another new student, maybe it's important to Igor to feel like you've got a connection to somebody else in the ghost world, as opposed to hanging around with Lycan all the time. Alternatively, it's possible that you just don't think that Pinelli is... Maybe Igor has given up on Pinelli. Maybe Igor thinks that either you are never going to be the right sort of person to be friends with Pinelli, or maybe you think Pinelli's the wrong kind of person to be friends with you. It could be any sort of thing. Dolly says, I don't really have a new quest to suggest at the moment, so we can keep it if we want to. Yeah, I say we can sort of hold on to it for a little bit longer. The star system was like, that was, again, that's some old Ironsworn holdout. I have to make a note for myself that I have to remedy that today and sort of fix that so it's not quite as distracting. And technically, in Ironsworn, they were called vows, but we called them quests because I knew if we were moving over to a different system, I wanted quests to still be sort of a familiar idea. I might have shot myself in the foot there because I'm realizing now, if we call them the same thing but treat them differently, people are going to be confused by that. What are you going to do? All right, folks. I believe that is it for today. If you want to discuss this campaign, we have got our Discord. Go ahead and use the links command. That will bring you over to the Linktree. Linktree/sidecar stories. linktr.ee/sidecar stories. That is the link to follow to the Discord especially, and that is the link to share. That is a huge way that you can help out this channel. If you want to get more players in here, because that's always fun. If we get to a point, if we get to a point wherein the audience has grown sufficiently, maybe we will add another character controlled by chat in here. We shall see. Silver Bullet is certainly an easy system. And do not forget, folks, don't forget, next week on Wednesday, the 17th, we are opening up the Realms of Residus Discord server. This is going to be a roleplay server in which you get to play not just part of a character, because everyone has to share Igor. I want you to be able to play your own character. I want everyone playing their own characters over there. I want to see what sort of characters you want to play. We are going to... I have never done something like this before. It's a new experiment. I want to have that be a great spot to go find lore and for you to literally be able to go explore different places. I'm going to be finding a couple of ways to do that. But in addition, there are going to be different commands, different things that you can put in, secrets to find, essentially. I'm going to be adding more and more of those over time. And finally, I plan to run adventures over there. And I mean directly with you. I want to take parties of viewers and have y'all just join me in adventures. I don't know if they're going to be streamed. I would guess they're going to be more text-based, but I might find that it's much more efficient to run them here via Discord to run them on stream, so you can listen to me directly and react to that over in Discord, and I can sort of read your responses there. But my good folks, I am very thankful for all of you. I hope you were excited. Remember, for your first character, because you're going to probably get to invent them, for your first character, for this soft opening, because we're only opening a bit of it at a time, then we're going to open it up to the wider world. For the soft opening, my clue to you that you should be thinking about is what sort of character you'd want to play on an airship. There we go. That is your clue. I will see you once again next week when we will be opening that up. It is a soft opening. There's going to be lots of kinks to iron out, I'm sure, but all of you great folks have been so generous to me in the past with your time and your attention. If you continue this, I hope to be able to continue to reward it. And so, yeah, if you have some patience with me over there on that one, I'm going to learn a lot in the beginning, and then over time, I would say probably right around Book Fair is when we're going to open up the full Realms of Rositas Discord server. So soft opening next week, and then the full opening round about September. I hope y'all are excited. I absolutely am. Everyone, thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing what sort of characters you play and what sort of adventures we go on, what sort of secrets that you find. Dahlia says, oh yeah, when is Book Fair again? Book Fair, mid to late September. I do not have the dates set for it so quite yet, but I probably should. I should probably set those dates here pretty soon. I am going to have those dates set within this next week. That's a good reminder. I got to set those dates this week. So within the next week, you will know what the dates are going to be for Book Fair. Once again, I anticipate we're going to handle it about the same way. A week full of streaming, absolutely chock-a-block full of streaming. I am going to consult my notes from last year and try and identify, what sorts of things I did well, what sorts of things might need some help. And as such, because it's approaching, y'all can expect some votes to be happening over in Discord regarding how we might go ahead and like what sort of extra streams we might want to try. For instance, I think I'm going to put up a vote for whether or not we want to try Stray, because that seems like kind of a fun one for our group. It seems like Stray might be a fun game that our group might enjoy. So, everybody, thank you so much for being here. I love y'all. I will see you tomorrow for Hunger Games, or next week for more adventures in side cannons. Thank you very, very much to Dahlia and Monkey and all you good folks who hung out with us today. Luis, I don't know if Luis is still in here, but Marinver, I know Gems was in here earlier. Thank you very, very much. I love y'all, and I will see you later on. If you would like to join... Dahlia's a big fan. Dahlia's feeling it. Fantastic. Okay, I'll make sure to put that note over in Discord. Everyone, thank you so very much for being with me. I will see you on Thursday, tomorrow, for the Hunger Games. We are wrapping up that book quickly and then heading on into the Lord of the Rings after that. And of course, back here on Wednesday for not only the next episode of this, but also for the soft opening of the Realms of Rositas roleplay server. I'm very excited. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.